Hello, Virgo. Let me be direct with you. If you're watching this, there's a reason. Not a cosmic ordained reason, not some predetermined fate, but a reason that lives in your awareness right now. Something pulled you here. Honor that pull. Now let's get into what's actually present. Hold on. Before you scroll past this, before you dismiss it as just another reading, before you decide it doesn't apply to you, pause. Because there's something about this specific moment in time, about where you are in your personal cycle, about what's converging in your reality right now. That requires your attention. And I'm not talking about a specific date on the calendar. I'm not saying that March 27th has some magical universal significance that applies to everyone equally. I'm talking about a marker, a reference point, a way of indicating that there's a specific window of time and you're in it where what you do or don't do carries more weight than usual. Listen closely, because this isn't about superstition. This isn't about fear. This isn't about convincing you that something terrible will happen if you don't listen. This is about awareness, about recognizing when you're standing at a juncture point, about understanding that some moments offer clarity that others don't. And right now, you're in one of those moments. Can you feel it? That sense of something being different, even if you can't name what. Drop a comment if you're already tracking this energy, because here's what I'm actually picking up on. There's a decision you've been avoiding, not consciously necessarily, not in an obvious, I know I need to deal with this, but I'm not kind of way, but in a quieter way, a more subtle way. The kind of avoidance that looks like staying busy, like focusing on other things, like telling yourself you'll address it later when you have more information or more energy or more certainty. And that decision, it's been sitting there, waiting, not demanding immediate attention, but definitely requiring eventual attention. And eventual is running out, not because of some cosmic deadline, not because the universe is going to punish you if you don't act by a specific date, but because circumstances are moving. Other people are making choices. Situations are evolving with or without your input. And if you keep waiting, if you keep deferring, if you keep avoiding the choice that's in front of you, you're going to find that the choice gets made for you by default, by inaction, by letting time and circumstance decide instead of deciding consciously yourself. Does this feel familiar? Does this match something you've been sensing? Let me know in the comments, because let me be more specific about what kind of decision I'm tracking. It's not a trivial choice. It's not about what to have for dinner or which show to watch next. This is substantial. This touches something that matters to you, something connected to your core needs, your actual values, your real desires beneath all the performative wanting. And it's probably one of these categories, a relationship that's reached a crossroads where continuing as is isn't actually sustainable, even though you've been pretending it is, where something needs to shift, either deeper commitment or honest acknowledgement that it's run its course, but you've been existing in the ambiguous middle, or a professional situation that's outgrown you, or you've outgrown it, where the role you're playing doesn't fit who you've become, where staying requires shrinking yourself in ways that are slowly suffocating you, even though the suffocation is gradual enough to rationalize, or a personal pattern that keeps recycling a way you relate to yourself, a belief you carry, a habit you perpetuate that you know isn't serving you but feels so familiar, so automatic, that changing it seems harder than just continuing to tolerate it, or a geographical restlessness that won't quiet, a knowing that where you are isn't where you're meant to be, a pull toward movement, toward relocation, toward physically repositioning yourself in a way that matches your internal evolution. Which one of these is closest to what you're experiencing? Or is it something else entirely? Comment below and let me know. Because here's why this particular window of time matters. Clarity is available to you right now that might not be available later. Not because the universe is being generous this week and stingy next week, but because of where you are in your own internal cycle. You've been processing something, working through something, integrating something, and that processing has brought you to a point of potential understanding about what's real versus what you've been pretending is real, understanding about what you actually want versus what you think you should want, understanding about what serves your growth versus what just maintains your comfort. And that understanding, it's fragile. It's present but not yet solidified. It's available but not yet anchored, which means if you don't act on it, if you don't honor it while it's fresh, if you don't make choices based on it before the moment passes, it can slip away. Not permanently, but you might have to do the processing work all over again to get back to this level of clarity. And that's exhausting. That's demoralizing. That's the pattern of having breakthroughs that don't lead to breakthroughs because you don't follow the insight with action. Have you experienced this before? Having clarity and then losing it by not acting on it? Let me know in the comments, because I want to talk about what don't skip actually means in this context. It doesn't mean you have to make a massive dramatic move immediately. It doesn't mean you need to blow up your life by tomorrow. It doesn't mean impulsive action is required. What it means is don't ignore what you know. Don't pretend you're not aware of what needs addressing. Don't convince yourself that you can keep deferring indefinitely. Don't tell yourself comfortable lies about how things will just work themselves out without your conscious participation, because they won't. Things don't just work themselves out, not in ways that actually serve you. Things work themselves out in ways that serve entropy, inertia, the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is rarely the path of most alignment. So don't skip means pay attention, take the awareness seriously, honor what you're sensing, even if you're not sure exactly how to act on it yet. It means sitting with the discomfort instead of distracting yourself from it. It means having the conversation you've been avoiding. It means looking clearly at the situation instead of keeping it soft focused so you don't have to see the details. It means doing the internal work now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when it feels easier, of getting honest with yourself about what's true. Does that feel manageable? Does that feel like something you can actually do? Drop a comment if you're willing to engage with this. Because here's what I'm sensing about what happens if you do engage versus if you don't. If you engage, if you pay attention, if you honor this window of clarity, you move forward, not necessarily comfortably, not necessarily easily, but you move, you make a choice from awareness instead of default. You take an action from intention instead of reaction. You shift something from conscious decision instead of letting circumstances decide for you. And that movement, it creates momentum. It builds on itself. It opens pathways that weren't accessible when you were stuck in avoidance. You might not see the full outcome immediately. You might not know exactly where the choice leads, but you'll know you made it consciously. You'll know you participated in shaping your reality instead of just letting reality happen to you. And that knowing, it creates a different relationship with yourself, a relationship of trust, a sense that you can handle hard things, make tough choices, navigate uncertainty without completely falling apart. But if you don't engage, if you skip this, if you let the moment pass without acting on what you're aware of, you stay where you are. And staying where you are when you're aware it's not serving you, that creates a specific kind of suffering. Not acute suffering, not the kind that demands immediate attention, but chronic suffering. The dull ache kind, the slow erosion kind, the death by 1,000 compromises kind. And over time, that chronic suffering hardens into resentment. Resentment toward the situation, resentment toward other people, resentment toward yourself for not having the courage to choose differently when you had the chance. Have you felt this kind of slow building resentment before? Let me know in the comments, because I want to address what might be stopping you from engaging with this. Fear, obviously. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of the consequences. Fear of disrupting what's familiar, even if what's familiar is slowly killing you. But underneath the fear, there's something else. There's a part of you that's attached to the story you've been telling about why you can't choose differently, about why the situation is complicated, about why it's not that simple, about why you need more time, more information, more certainty before you can act. And those stories, they're not all lies. Some of them contain truth. Situations are complicated. Choices do have consequences. Certainty is rare, but the stories are also convenient. They're comfortable. They let you off the hook. They allow you to stay where you are while maintaining the narrative that you're not choosing to stay, you're just waiting for the right moment to leave, except the right moment is a myth. The right moment is now. The right moment is whenever you decide to make it the right moment by choosing. And if you keep waiting for external circumstances to create the perfect conditions for choosing, you'll wait forever, because perfect conditions don't exist. There will always be a reason to defer. There will always be something not quite aligned. There will always be an excuse available if you want it. The question is, do you want the excuse more than you want the change? Does that question land? Does it reveal something? Comment below if this is hitting. Because here's what else I'm picking up on about this specific time frame. There's someone in your life, could be a romantic connection, could be a friend, could be a family member, could even be a professional relationship who's also at a decision point. And their decision, it intersects with yours. It affects your options. It shapes your landscape. And they're not waiting indefinitely either. They're processing, they're considering, they're moving toward a choice whether or not you're aware of it. And if you're assuming you have all the time in the world to figure out what you want, if you're thinking you can just keep the status quo while you slowly decide, you might be miscalculating. Because while you're deferring, they're deciding. And their decision might change what's available to you, not as punishment, not as consequence for not choosing fast enough, but just as the natural result of other people having agency, making moves, shaping their own lives. And you could wake up one day soon and find that the option you were casually considering is no longer on the table. Not because it was taken away maliciously, but because someone else moved on, because circumstances shifted, because time doesn't pause while you deliberate. Have you been assuming you have more time than you might actually have? Let me know in the comments, because I want to be clear about something important. This reading isn't designed to create panic. It's not about pressuring you into rash decisions. It's not about manufacturing urgency where none exists. But it is about waking you up to the reality that time is actually moving, that situations are actually evolving, that the window you're in right now is actually finite, not in some dramatic, this is your last chance ever kind of way, but in the practical sense that conditions change, people move on, opportunities close, and what's available to you today might not be available tomorrow. So the question isn't, should I panic and make a hasty decision? The question is, am I being honest with myself about what I actually want? And am I willing to move toward that even when it's uncomfortable? Because if you're willing to get clear and act from that clarity, then this window of time becomes useful. It becomes the marker you look back on and think, that's when everything shifted. That's when I stopped deferring and started choosing. But if you're not, if you keep the same patterns of avoidance, of waiting, of deferring, then this is just another moment that passes, another point where you could have chosen differently but didn't. And that's fine too. That's your choice. Nobody can make you engage with your own life, but you can't be surprised when staying in avoidance creates the outcomes that avoidance creates. When not choosing leads to default choices being made for you. Does this feel fair? Does this feel true? Drop a comment if you're tracking with this, because here's what I really want you to take from this. You're standing at a threshold, not a mystical threshold, a practical one. On one side of it is the life you've been living, the patterns you've been running, the choices you've been making or not making. On the other side is something different, not necessarily better in every way, not perfect or problem-free, but different, more aligned, more honest, more reflective of who you're actually becoming versus who you've been. And crossing that threshold requires something from you. It requires acknowledging what you know. It requires honoring what you're aware of. It requires making choices from consciousness instead of continuing to operate on autopilot. It requires courage, not the dramatic movie moment kind, but the quiet everyday kind. The kind that says, I see what's true and I'm going to act accordingly even though it's uncomfortable. And if you can find that courage, if you can access it in this window of time while clarity is available, everything shifts. Not all at once, not magically, but genuinely, you step into a different version of your life. One that you consciously chose, one that reflects your actual values and needs and desires. And that's worth the discomfort of choosing. So don't skip this. Don't ignore what's present. Don't wait for perfect conditions that will never arrive. Just choose. from awareness, from honesty, from alignment with who you're actually trying to become. The moment is here, you're in it, and what you do with it matters. I don't sell futures, I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.